Yep. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Sharon's going to light the Christ candle for us. Thank you, Sharon. Sharon, would you welcome to do the land acknowledgement, please?
That's okay. It's good to be humbled. It's good to be humbled. Okay. So can everyone hear me? So Maureen is going to welcome, but I'm going to do the land acknowledgement first. And I think it's important that we truly acknowledge the lands that we're on. We have a particular relationship with our proximity to the Six Nations, and the fact that the Mohawk Institute was the longest running residential school in Canada. We acknowledge that Sydenham-Heritage United Church is located on territories of the Anishinaabe, Attawandaron, and Haudenosaunee nations. These territories are covered by Between the Lakes Purchase Treaty 3, signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit in 1792, and also covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and are on the Haldimand Track. For those of us who are settlers, we thank these nations for the ongoing stewardship of these lands. We acknowledge historical and ongoing injustices that Indigenous peoples endure in Canada, and we accept responsibility to contribute toward healing and promoting respectful relationships with Indigenous communities.
Thank you, Sharon. Can you hear me okay?
This is what I'm worried about doing. Try this.
Can you hear me now?
It's like a Verizon commercial. Oh, different microphone perhaps. How about we just hang this back and forth for a bit?
Sorry, guys. It's working now.
You turn this one off. This one is the one giving us feedback. I'll give you that for a second. So you just have to talk into it.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Sorry, guys. I've got a cracked knee, so I'm having an issue standing and moving around. Can you hear me now? Have I got it now? Okay. Thank you, everyone. Sorry, I'm sitting because I have a cracked knee and having problems moving around right now. It is healing. I want to thank everyone for taking the time to come, whether you're joining us from here after having a bite or from joining us from home. Thank you very much for attending. Fred, could you open in prayer, please?
Let us pray. Holy One, Holy Mystery, Holy Love, we gather to consider the life of this community of faith. As we gather, give us strength to listen, give us wisdom to speak, give us patience to be silent. Guide us by the power of the Spirit, for we ask it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Fred. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First of all, we have to, can I have a nomination, please, for chair of this meeting?
I nominate Yvonne Wright.
Can I have a seconder, please? Larry Picard. Thank you. Still can't hear me?
Number 6, test, test, test. Number 6, here we go. Let's see if this one doesn't yell at us. Sorry, guys.
Invite people, there's a lot of empty spaces up at the front. If the sound is going to be problematic, it may be easier if we all
Sorry. Let's try this. Can we hear you now?
Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you just hear me if I talk loud? Okay, I'll use my big voice. I'm good at that. So we had a motion to nominate the chair, Yvonne, and seconded. Larry? Thank you. And can we have a motion to nominate a secretary for this meeting? Oh, sorry, we need to vote on that. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. All in favor again? Somebody want to count? Can someone count, please?
just keep your hands up, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Who are you voting? You can't vote.
Okay, you're voting. Okay.
21 in favor, all those opposed, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 opposed.
Carried. Okay, now we need to nominate a secretary to take minutes of this meeting, please. Terry Matheson. Seconded, okay. All in favor? Opposed?
1 opposed.
Carried. Okay, thank you. Now we need a motion for scrutineers in case we need them. Have a motion for that, please? Someone nominate? We need 2.
I'll nominate Reverend Fred Monteith as one of the scrutineers. Got a seconder? Okay, Ngozi.
Ngozi? All in, sorry. Okay, we need 2. Yvonne?
I'll nominate Harold Wall to be the second scrutineer.
Harold Wall?
In case we have a valid vote, then we will hand out a ballot and
Need a seconder for that, for Harold to do? Okay, okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. Sharon, you review the holy minutes? Thanks, Siobhan. Good luck.
I think Terry went downstairs to ensure that the link for the Zoom is posted because it was not posted. So we'll give her a few minutes to return before we actually begin. Yes, please, yes. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yes, Evelyn?
According to the air news that we get, Brantford United is hosting the Women's Day of Prayer on Friday at 1 o'clock. Cynthia and I are going. Cindy's going to try to get there. If anybody needs a ride, contact me. It's a beautiful service and it's going to be terrible. Jerker because it's written by a Palestinian minister. But it's a beautiful service. Brantford United has invited women from all Brantford County and refreshments after this, and it's 1 o'clock at Brantford United. And as those of us will remember, that's Catholic Church.
Okay, so have we heard that? It's, yeah. So Friday at 1 o'clock is a Women's Day of Prayer to be held at Brantford United Church. And of course, all women are welcome. Wonderful, we're waiting for you. You've been nominated for secretary.
Oh, I have I?
Yes, you have.
Can you check the Zoom link?
And I brought you some notepads. If you care to have that, you can have that forever too.
Thank you.
Oh Lord, where's my agenda?
Congratulations on your nomination.
So I don't take this position or this nomination or election lightly. I am honored and privileged to be your facilitator for Sydenham-Heritage General Meeting for 2024. So in saying that, I'm going to constitute this meeting in the name of Jesus Christ, the true head of the church, by whom we have offered this privilege to the business of this congregation. The bounds of the meeting will be here in the sanctuary at Sydenham-Heritage United Church, as well as on Zoom, hoping that those who are joining us on Zoom have now entered. So we thank you. Our next vote would be to have a nomination to have adherents participate in the voting that might take place. So a motion to moved by Darrell, seconded by Ron Stinson, that adherents will be allowed to vote in this meeting. Any questions or for clarification? Not anymore. They can vote, am I correct, Fred? Please correct me. Yeah. Adherents can vote on all matters of the church now, with some minor exceptions. And I don't know that anyone in this congregation might fall into those exceptions where if somebody just walks in for today, that they'll be allowed to vote on those kinds of matters. But if they're adherents who's been with us for quite some time, then yes, they are allowed to vote. Any other questions or for clarifications? Then seeing none, can we call the vote? All in favor? Anyone oppose? Abstentions? Carried. Thank you. I believe on the back of the agenda should be, or do we have it? It is our holy manners. Did you have it?
No, I don't.
What's a handout?
I didn't get the handout.
Let's see.
Was that handed out today?
Oh my Lord. Okay, I didn't get it.
Sharon?
Thank you. We try to be right, but we never right.
So it didn't get handed out.
Okay. Do we have a copy of it? Okay, so it's being circulated.
What you should have is the agenda as a separate handout. The minutes
you okay? Okay, hoping that we all have a copy of the or behavioral covenant. I think it's important that we just review it. So I'm going to read it for us, praying that we will hold this covenant as we conduct this meeting. We are called to be the church as a part of the holy body, the body of Christ. We know that God is with us and works through us. We are not alone, and we give thanks to God. Our promise to God, we promise to care for the earth, follow the example of Jesus, be open to what the Spirit is saying to us. Our promise to the church, we promise to create an open, inclusive, safe, and a peaceful environment. Support and help carry out decisions that are made, accept change with a positive attitude, and use our time, talents, and gifts to promote a healthy congregation. And our promise to each other is to treat others with respect, courtesy, and compassion, listen to the opinions and the ideas of others, discuss, debate, and disagree openly in the meetings, express our ideas clearly and honestly, and be aware of our own actions and how we might affect others. Be mindful of our body language, our tone of voice, and the choice of words. And we hold each other accountable in keeping this covenant. And I may add something that we use in the region in terms of our behavior. I think we just need to be respectful. And when we speak, we're speaking for ourselves and not for everyone. So the I believe is what is encouraged. Any questions? Okay, so we're at point 7 in the agenda, the approval of the agenda. And hoping that we all have a copy of that. Okay, just a second, Sharon, just a moment. You have the agenda? Okay. I believe that there are some amendments coming or some additions that we may want to add in the new business of in point 15. And I believe that was missing is projects that Larry will bring, your capital projects. So you can add in point 15 under new business, capital projects. Is there anything else to be added to the agenda? Yes, Larry?
There was a motion from the last meeting that Darrell Lee, it's understanding
That?
it was tabled from last meeting.
From which meeting? Did you hear what he said? Something was tabled. I didn't hear the topic. Mm-hmm. Oh, from the options committee? Okay, did you want to bring that in under new business? Larry? I think the transition committee report probably makes that motion. Thank you for that. Okay. So are we okay then? Any other amendments or additions to the agenda? Yes, Verna? It is not in the budget. The capital projects is not coming out of the budget. Is that correct, Larry? Okay, it's not coming out of the budget. It's not a budgeted item. And Larry will explain that. That's part of his. From the, I don't want to take Larry's thunder, but that's coming from the Alan Cooks Foundation. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. Seeing nothing else, then may we approve the agenda as circulated? Okay, moved by Larry, seconded by Ron. All in favor? Anyone oppose? Abstentions? Thank you, that's carried. Like Sharon pointed out about the minutes that are in the annual report, unfortunately, those are incorrect. So you should have an attachment or an addendum or a handout of the February 19th annual general meeting. So 2 pages. I believe it's 2 pages. And we're going to look at these separately, so we're looking at February the 19th. And we're looking for a mover and a seconder for those minutes. Yes, Sharon? Okay, so moved by Sharon, second by, oh God, Judy Thompson. Okay, any questions? Yes, no? Sure,
It's in the motion, first of all, it's on page 36. And it's a motion halfway down the page that the Allen Cook Foundation funded projects, the ceiling and brick pointing approved and stated right away. I think it's
oh, started. Yes, correction, yes. Thanks, Norma. Okay, any others? You don't have the minutes? Cindy, are there any more minutes of the February 19th? Ngozi. Okay, then seeing none, may we have a motion then to accept the February 19th minutes of the AGM? Oh, sorry. Oh, we did have a motion. It was discussion. Sorry. Yeah.
I was just reading minutes from February 19th. Nominating committee. My name is Lucy.
Oh, the nominating committee. And so it is. Okay. So Cynthia pointed out that the nominating committee of 2023 should have had her name included as well. So we're going to add Cynthia Vincula's name to that. Okay. All right. So the motion is that we're going to, it's been moved and seconded. Now we're going to call the vote to accept the minutes as circulated. All in favor? With the changes. Thank you, Terry. All in favor? Anyone oppose? Anyone choose to abstain? Thank you. The motion is carried with the changes. And if you look at your your June 25th. June 25th congregational meeting. Okay, so we need someone to move and second motion. So moved by Norma, second by Ruth Picard in the back. Thank you, Ruth. Any questions? Okay. See no questions. I'm going to call the vote. All in favor of the June 25th meeting? Okay. Anyone oppose? Abstention? Okay, carried. Thank you all very much for that. Okay, Lord, I lost my agenda. I must have picked it up somewhere. I don't know where I put it. Okay. I'm not sure, Fred, if we left out any business arising from those minutes. I don't know that we do, so I'm just going to forego that. Okay, all right, I'll just forego that. So now we are going to look at the annual report. We're going to look at all the committee reports first and leave the financial piece to the end. I want to thank all the leads who took the time to write a report on these committees. We know to sum up the year, what has happened takes a lot of focus and concentration. So you will see the reports in the report, the committee reports in the annual report. If there are any questions about any of the reports outside the financial report, I'll entertain them now. So we're talking about stewardship, we're talking about worship, we're talking about pastoral care, UCW, communications, outreach, music, okay? All right, so if there are no questions, yes, Larry. Thank you. Okay. So a motion then to accept the committee reports as presented in the annual report. A motion for that, Dave, seconded by Jean. Thank you. Get you next time, sure. Okay, Jean Nish. All in favor of that motion then? Anyone oppose? Abstain? Okay, that is carried. At this point, I am going to invite Norma. I think. No, we have to have the finance report before we can vote on the whole annual report. So I'm going to invite Norma and your team to present the financial report, please.
Here I am again.
Are you okay to use that, or did you? Okay.
Now, someone at some point suggested that the rest of the finance team should stand up here with me. So, finance people, please come forward. Don't leave me here alone. Okay. I'm not sure if I can use this because I need my hands free.
Oh Lord, I don't know how to use this.
Can you just rotate it towards me?
I think so. If I know how to use it. Okay, there we go. You want to go to the lectern?
Go up there?
Okay,
Well,
you can go to the lectern if you like.
Okay. In that case, I'll be behind you.
Oh, you can go up. You can go up with her. Yeah, we can go up. Yeah, just go up with her.
How's that? Is that any better?
Can you hear me? Yes? No? Okay, I'll just talk loud. The financial reports are about 5 or 6 pages, starting on page 15 and going to page 20. And it's basically the same reports that I put in every year. The one I did add this year was on the treasurer's written report page, and it was an attempt to show our big picture. I hope it's self-explanatory of how we've done over 7 years since we became Sydenham-Heritage. And it's not as bad as it looks, because we've, in 7 years, we've decreased our total value by $136,954, which doesn't sound all that bad. Unfortunately, the bad part of it is that in the early years, the deficits were $20,000 and now they're $70,000. So it has both good and bad to it. Other than that, I'd like to move the financial reports as printed and then take your questions and any other explanations that are required. So I'd like to move the financial reports that are on pages 15 to page 20 in the annual report.
I'll second it.
Thank you, Ron. Did you get that, Terry? It was Ron that seconded? Okay. Are there any questions? Larry?
I'm wondering why that question for everyone's here actually. Is it why we would run our household finances the way we run the church's finances? I'm just wondering why are we doing that? We're just getting ourselves deeper and deeper in debt. And is there no solution?
Well, well, we actually, I agree that.
Would you, on your personal finances, would you just keep on spending and get deeper and deeper in debt? Why would we run the Lord's house that way?
Well, I agree with you that we don't, that running deficits and just going on is not a good idea. I agree 100% with that. But it's not really in debt, because what we're doing is using up our reserves. Now, as householders and people who run households, if we're using up our reserves at a rather alarming rate, we should stop doing it. Otherwise, we're going to run out of money, and that's an unfortunate fact. But we're not actually in debt yet. I agree with that. And if well, the numbers do speak that, the deficit for the past year was $57,000, and although our deficits are always set as a worst-case scenario when we're doing the budget, and we hope we always come in under, but it's not a good picture. Yeah. My job is to record and report, not to take the blame. I wish.
Can I make
Yep.
a comment?
Yes, Larry, if you need the microphone.
Larry, I understand what you're saying, but as long as this congregation wants to worship in this building, those expenses are going to be there. And there's nothing we can do about it. Because this building is expensive, we have to have staff to run it, and we have to maintain it. So until we decide that we don't want to do that, then we're going to have to live with it and just go along until it ends.
Are there any additional questions? Oh, yes, Harold, I'm sorry.
On our current deficit projection, did you do any calculation to determine how many more years we have before we use all of our buildings?
It is hard to say, but it's about 6 or 7 years, I think, and then we would run out of our reserves and there'd be nothing, excuse me, nothing left to do. So we do have a few years of grace, but using it up at this rate is, in my opinion, it's irresponsible. But I'm just giving you my own opinion at this moment.
The problem maintained, it's not the money, it's the people.
100 years ago, it seemed, when I was treasurer, and I kept harping on that. Money will be there if we get the people. And how do we get the people? That's always a dilemma. How do we go about that? Because one doesn't come without the other. And we always look at cause and effect. It's a term our son keeps using when he works on a car. What caused it? What causing our deficit? The cause is the people. And I hate to think I'm the average age of most people these days, and how do we project new people? So there's a challenge there for someone, for us or a committee. How do we bring new people in? So if you've got any ideas, by all means, bring it forward to key people on this board or the church in general. And Larry, thank you for bringing this forward. I wanted to comment on it, but I didn't know how to start about it. But the finance committee, Larry is saying, yes, it costs money to keep this church going, and I'm sure there's not money that's not spent with a good cause or a necessity. We can't cut off utilities, we can't cut off our paid help, or we have nobody. So thank you.
Thanks, Harold.
Thank you, Harold. You know, I agree that it's hard to come up with a solution, and some of the kind of really off-the-wall solutions might be that if everybody doubled their givings, we wouldn't have a deficit at all. Because then we'd have $230,000 worth of income to offset the $180,000 worth of expenses. The harsh reality is salaries and people costs are the largest part of the budget. And Paul, I'm sure that one of the reasons Paul left us was because he knew we couldn't afford him. Because of the United Church moving us up in one of the cost of living categories, and I believe Paul was about to move up to the next category in the pay scale, would have cost us probably $110,000 for his salary this year, if he was still with us. It would have been more than what we're budgeting for at this moment. So, I mean, I'm very sad that Paul left. I really thought he was a wonderful minister and so good at getting out into the community. But that's a harsh reality that we couldn't really afford him, and he knew that. The other employees are all, in a much lower, they don't have as much impact as the ministry. I've unfortunately giving you too much opinion here.
Okay, so
Verna? Oh, I'm sorry, Sharon.
Sharon and then Verna.
So included in Maureen and my report that's in the annual report, on page 3, the top paragraph explains a number of things that came out of the options committee that we were suggesting, because it wasn't just about reducing our minister down to half-time. There were a whole slew of options that we put forward at the June 25th congregational meeting. And I just want to flag those again, because I think it's not just a one-fits-all solution. We have to really use our creativity to put together a range of solutions. And because we have the building, people aren't going to necessarily come. I mean, there's some really good articles in the recent Broadview that talk about the fact that we have to be imaginative around, and we have to fit the needs of our community.
Thanks, Sharon. I think, Verna?
I think I've been talking about enough. I'd like to know, Norma, if you could explain to the congregation what we pay our supply minister, all the things that we pay, and all the things that we'll be paying an interim minister. So the costs. So everybody knows the exact costs.
Do you want the the cost for the last year? Or for the, for,
What we're looking at right now and next year, potentially.
well, I mean, the minister's salary is in, there is one line for it. It combines all of the costs, all of the parts of it. I don't have the breakdown with me that I could easily give you, but I can certainly give it to anybody who wants it. Got to find the right line. The minister's salary last year, and that does include a month and a half with Fred, as well as 11 months with Paul, and that was $96,000, and that includes all of the cost of benefits for us, like the Canada pension and employment insurance. All of that is included in that number. I don't, in the annual report, put a breakdown in. For the next year, we'll have 3 months of Fred and possibly 9 months of an intentional interim minister. And an intentional interim minister is likely to cost us $105,000, I think, for a full year. But for 3/4 of a year, I can't do that math, but it would be about 80,000 perhaps. Roughly 80,000 for the, including the benefits. And that's if we actually get one for April 1st. I don't think there's any knowledge on that yet that I'm aware of. Does that answer your question? Then this isn't, this is partially budget conversation as well as financial. At the moment, I believe the motion on the floor is only to accept the financial reports as printed in the annual report. And if there's more questions, I don't see any more.
Okay, so seeing none, then we can call the vote to accept the financial report as presented in the annual report. Moved by Norma and seconded by Ron Stinson. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Larry, thank you. And anyone abstained? The vote is carried. And Norma, while you and your team is up there, then maybe we can present the approval of the budget, of the 2024 budget.
Okay, that is on pages 16, 17, and 18, with the bottom line being on page 18. For the budget for 2024, the bottom line is that we're projecting a budget of $77,250, and that's more than this year's deficit based on the fact that we've got, when you're trying to do the budget, you're trying to anticipate unexpected expenses. So it's all guesswork. It's mostly based on the previous year's spending, but it's also based on expecting the unexpected or providing for the unexpected. When I present it, I always hope that it'll come in much less. And this year, the past year it did. It came in, we were projecting 87,000 and it came in at 57. A lot of that is, some of that is because we have more people. We have people who have returned from COVID, and the givings have gone up. But in the budget, we left it as last year's projection because we just aren't, especially when we were making this budget, not sure of how things were going to go this year with Paul having just left and the feeling of uncertainty at the time when we were doing the budget. I guess to start with, no, I should move the acceptance of the budget.
We need a seconder for that, Norma.
And is there a seconder?
Sharon, you seconding? Okay, so Norma moved and Sharon is second. Any discussion, questions, areas for clarification?
Kathy's got a
Oh,
question.
Kathy?
Kathy at the back?
Kathy?
And this is a little expense, but the newsletter expenses at $1,200. I'm wondering why, in this day and age, the newsletter is still done the way it is and not electronically. It could be emailed to us for no paper, no printing, no envelopes, no postage. For the majority of us. I realize there are some people that would still need it mailed, but I guess it's only $1,200, but every little bit helps.
I'm glad you said that. I've tried with, in the last few months especially, trying to encourage our people to not spend money on anything that's not really necessary. To ask that question, is this necessary? Whether it's small or large, but most people feel if it's small potatoes, it doesn't matter. Because $100 here and $200 there isn't going to solve the entire deficit problem. But I think every little bit would help. I think it would make some difference, and quite honestly, I'm not even comfortable moving the acceptance of this budget. I think there's ways we should be trying to cut costs that are even small costs, but I don't feel that there was much support for that idea.
I don't, okay, I'm going to take a question from Cynthia.
I'm just wondering, because in the community where I also belong, a few have reached out to me asking for rentals for the hall for a family function. Are we open for outside of our membership to rent our hall, and how much is the cost? We can't hear her.
Oh, sorry, I apologize. I probably, okay, we'll pass the microphone around. Sorry about that.
I have received calls from the Filipino community members wondering about the rental of the halls. I have redirected them to the office, but I'm just wondering, are we open to the rent of the hall and the kitchen, and how much? And what is the process of doing so?
We are open to it for sure, and I don't know the numbers off by heart. If Aileen is here, do you know them? The basic?
Let's wait for the mic, please, Aileen, so that everyone can hear. Thank you.
That's what a scrutineer does.
Yes, that's another job of the scrutineer. Thank you, Harold.
I do know some of them off by heart, and we are getting more rentals from people outside the church. We have some coming up this summer and stuff. To rent Calder Hall is $100. If you're non-commercial, if you're commercial, business or whatever, then it's $200. The kitchen is an additional $75 if you want that use of that, and sanctuary here is $200, I believe. $300, sorry, for the sanctuary. And on top of those expenses, you also have to pay for the custodian, which is $75. And if you need our audio-video system, that's the additional charge. So yeah, but we do have actually Buck and Doe coming up in April. We have some birthday parties coming up in the summer, renting rooms. So we are getting more rentals in. We just need to kind of push it even more.
Okay, thanks, Aileen. Any others? Verna?
Could I ask a question to Aileen? Can we open our kitchen to anyone, or do we need someone certified in our staff there? Can Shelley, are you normally asked, or can you do that, or what?
Be there, yeah.
So normally then we would request that Shelley be there if we're opening it to everyone else. Thank you.
Okay. She's going to do a follow-up, and then we'll come to you, Verna. Sorry about that.
I am aware that some halls, like church halls, they rent out their halls per hour. Are we doing that? Is there a limit for the rental of the hall? No. Okay, thank you.
So thanks for that, because I think this is information that could perhaps go back to the there's a rental committee that, correct me if I'm wrong, that looks at, compare prices out there and then put an agreement together. So maybe that's information that that particular committee can perhaps use as they're resetting their rates.
That's kind of where I was coming from. I think $100 rental for a Calder Hall is way too cheap. You can't rent a hall in Brantford anywhere for under $1,000 for an evening. So we are really undercutting ourselves. We have a group that comes in every Monday night and then other times into the sanctuary for concerts, and they pay $1,500 a year. Like that is, I mean, that's what most people pay for a night. So we're really undercutting ourselves with $100.
Okay, so thanks for
So
that.
based on that, could we ask the committee responsible for renting or setting the rates to relook at this?
When we have a group that wants to come in and use on a regular basis, the rental committee looks at what the group is and what they could afford, etc. So they don't necessarily pay the same rates. So that would be looked at separately. But like they say, the $100, that's for a one-time event. And normally most those events come in the afternoon and as an evening event, so they're coming in just to set up or whatever. So it's not necessarily a whole day that they're in.
Okay.
Fairview United Church went to a community center model, and they reviewed and did cost comparisons, like what other places are renting. They rent their facility for $65 an hour. They found the Brantford School of Instrumental Music is renting their facility, and that it now accounts for 2/3 of their income. And I think that's really what we have to do. We have to actively market our facilities here, but the problem is around accessibility, which we will get to, I'm sure, at some point in this meeting.
Okay, thank you. And I think, okay, hold on. I think Terry had a comment, and then we'll go to Larry and then to Cynthia, please.
I have a very large voice. Do I need a mic?
Yes, you do. Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to add that when people rent Calder Hall, if it's a nonprofit group, yeah, they're getting it for the $100, but they're paying $75 for an AV tech. You're paying $75 for kitchen. If there is an extended period of time, they're paying more rent. If it's a commercial group, again, it's $200 plus $75 for the kitchen and $75 for AV. So $200 or $100 sounds like it's not very much, but when you start adding all of the additional stuff, because we break it down for everybody when they rent. So they're not just renting it for $200. I needed people to keep that in mind too. And Calder Hall is one of the smaller ones, and I think we rent Fellowship Room is the same price? Is it? Okay. But I also wanted to make a comment about, Sharon, you had talked about we need to rent ourselves out more. Accessibility is an issue here. Yes, we have chairlifts, but unless we can make this more accessible, we're not going to get the big rentals in. It'll always be the birthday parties, the showers, and the nonprofit groups that come in to rehearse on Monday nights. Those are the ones you're going to get. We need to make this church accessible in order to get the big rentals in. Those are my 2 cents.
Okay, thank you. So we're going to go to Larry and then Cynthia. And there's a hand at the back. Is that Ruth?
No, it's Betty.
Betty, okay, thank you.
This question is actually addressed to the board and the group that's doing research into the minister that we're hoping to hire in the future. And the question is, why did we decide to hire an interim minister, which is going to cost us a lot of money? And secondly, they're just not out there. And so the third question would be, why have we not why are we not looking for a minister? I'm not suggesting we go part-time, because I think that's early in the race, but to the committee that has selected that we must go this way, that's the question.
And as a member of the board, I'm going to try to answer that. So it was the feeling at the time when Paul had submitted his resignation, and it felt that there was a lot of most of us, if not all of us, might have felt the tension against each other. And I believe it came out at the September meeting. A lot of tensions and what sounds to be like conflict was present in a lot of people. Out of those conversations, and it came back to the board, it was, I don't like to use the word suggested, but perhaps agreed upon that what is needed at the time might be an intentional interim minister, based on the responses and the reactions that was happening in the space. The transition team has been put in place to look at all of this. So the decision has been made. We can't go back and pull that away. The transition team will report on that when they're called to do that. It's a fair question, but at this point, it's almost like redundant. I'm sorry, because that's a decision that was made and we cannot go back on it. Yeah, absolutely, but yeah. Okay, thank you. So, okay, so Terry, okay, that's good. And I believe, Betty, you had your hand up at the back? Okay. And then I think we'll call the question after Betty.
Regarding the rentals, Calder Hall at $100. Regarding the rentals, Calder Hall at $100 or $200 is, if that's what you're charging, that's what you're charging. But $75 for the kitchen is ridiculous. Number one, you have to have Shelley there, who does it every time. She's there constantly, doesn't get paid, and she doesn't need to get paid. That's not the thing. But $75 for what you have in that kitchen is not enough money.
Okay, thank you for the comments, and yeah, and I'm sure the rental committee is taking those suggestions or questions or concerns.
About the interim minister, I had the same concern, and my thought is, if you get someone in we know it's only for 2 years, well, what's the long-term goal? I can't get excited about someone who's going to be gone in 6 months or 18 months anyway, so why look at long-term projects? So if it can be changed, I agree with Larry. Let's look at the alternative, and why pay more for someone that's going to be gone in a short time? I know the reason for it is try to make the congregation more cohesive to a new minister, but I don't think that's necessary personally. So, in fact, I'll get a microphone and keep going, but I won't. Thank you.
Okay, we call the question. Thank you. We're going to call the question, and you'll report in your transition. Okay, thank you. So, all in favor of the 2024 budget presented by the Finance Committee? All in favor? Okay. Anyone oppose? Okay, we've got some oppositions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, thank you. Any abstentions? The vote carries. Thank you. Thank you to Norma and the financial team. It isn't an easy job, and I know that every time that there has to be a presentation of the finances, it's not the most comfortable of feelings to present that, especially when a congregation is in the situation that we find ourselves. However, Yes, yes, I'm thanking them, I'm thanking them. Is that what I was doing? Okay. But I just want to reassure you that one of the privileges of being a regional rep is to also hear the concerns of other congregations and the struggles that other congregations are going through. We are not an exception. We're not an exception. We're not different. A lot of congregations are struggling coming out of COVID, struggling about people givings are lower. We don't have the energy to do the work that we once did. You know, so how do we revitalize ourselves to do some of the stuff that we've done before? So I don't think we need to beat up on ourselves because we have a little bit of struggles here and a little bit of struggles there. Many, many other congregations are going through that. And I'm not saying this to make us be complacent to what we are going through, but just to say that we are not alone in the way in which we are doing church, or the way in which our finances are where they're at. As a matter of fact, I think we may be in a better position than many other congregations. We're in a better position. Yes, Larry? Here, Harold, please.
How come we
Why don't we see a financial report to know how much money they got, so they can help us out a bit?
I am pretty sure the financial reports of the region is public. It's not anything secret. It's okay, then it's online. Have you gone online to look at the regional reports? Okay, then, all right. So you know what, Larry, I'll make it my job to find it for you, and I'll make it available to you. And yes, the regions will help wherever the congregation needs help, okay? There are times, even for example, and I mean maybe the transition team might talk about this, but if there is a way in which we found ourselves in a place where we need financial help, the region will do it. But we have to qualify. They don't just hand it out. We'll have to be qualified for that. So it is there if it's needed, and it will be given if we're qualified to get it. Okay? Am I correct there, Fred? Thank you. Just to keep check. Okay. Point 11 is a report of the financial review. I'm not sure who's doing this. Who's doing that? Okay, then Norma, then the chair is yours again. Oh, the mic is yours. Okay.
The financial review was done just this past Tuesday, and therefore it didn't get printed and put into the annual report. Whoops. We're getting an echo here.
Mute. Put it back up. Hold it.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I did ask that they be printed. Some of the annual reports, if you picked it up today, probably had the copy in it, but I thought since some people did and other people did not get it, I'll just read it because it's a very short, it just says, no, it's from Crane Bookkeeping, and the owner is Tammy Crane, and it's called Notice to Reader. We have reviewed the balance sheet of Sydenham-Heritage United Church as at December 31st, 2023, and the statements of income and retained earnings for the year then ended, from the information that was provided by the company. We have reviewed such information and documentation. Upon reviewing said documentation, we have found all entries have been entered and recorded as such. Readers are cautioned that these statements may not be appropriate for their purposes. Our engagement should not be referred to as an audit, since it will not fulfill any statutory, contractual, or other audit requirement, nor will it fulfill any requirements for financial statements that are prepared in accordance with the Canadian Generally Accepted Accounting Principles. And that's signed by Tammy Crane. I'm sorry that it didn't get soon enough to be printed and inserted in the annual report, but it got done. Are there any questions about it? Or any clarification needed? It doesn't require motion. The only thing, I think the annual meeting is supposed to appoint the auditors for the following year. But we've not been doing that for the last few years. Am I right or wrong about that? We're supposed to do it? Then I could nominate that Tammy Crane be accepted again as our reviewer. Her price is very reasonable. It's under $100. Oh, Verna seconded?
And hear from, no? Oh, you wanted to move, okay, thank you. Okay, yes, Sharon?
The only issue with this is that we are going to have to start being much more aggressive with applying for grants. And to this date, like we've had grant committee for the last few years, which we've not done because we've had our hands full with other things. But really, if we want to move forward, particularly with accessibility of the building, we're going to have to apply for grants. And a lot of the grants require full audit.
$1,000.
It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
That's roughly.
Mhm.
And we're not going to Millard for us.
Yeah. Okay, all right, okay, so we have a mover to, what is Tammy's last name again? Tammy Crane, and a seconder for her to be our auditor for 2024. All in favor of, yes? Yeah.
I think that's it, 3 years we've had her. The one before that retired or somehow disappeared from the business.
Okay, yes, Betty?
No, it's only a review.
A review, okay, thank you. Okay, all right, so all in favor of Tammy Crane being the reviewer of the 2024, thank you. Anyone against? Sharon, okay, noted. Abstentions? Okay, the vote is carried. And at this point, we're going to go back to point 9 to have the annual report be accepted in its entirety. Mover for.
Exception, you already did it, with exception of finance and nominating.
Oh, so we're gonna.
So you've already had a motion and a seconder for this.
But this was for the minutes and the agenda, approval of the reports with the. So we'll go on now to point 13, the report of the nominations committee, which includes for the governing body, any members of committees going on or coming off, including the MNP, and in here should also be the regional reps. So Larry, are you prepared to do that?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm representative of the nominating committee, which is made up of Cynthia Advincula, Sonny Sinclair, and myself. And so our job is to approach people and ask them whether they will serve on different committees and such. And so the first thing that we're going to have to do here, we need to do, is nominate a new chair of the board. Sharon Davidson and Maureen Gilmore, the co-chairs, have resigned from their position, and so a vacancy occurred. And so the nominating committee has nominated Cindy Annual to be our new chair of the board. And so I'll make I move that Cindy be appointed as chair of the board, and I need a seconder. Got lots of them. Did you pick one, Terry?
I see a hand, BJ.
Okay. So before I ask for the vote, are there any more nominations for chair of the board? As we see none, I'm going to ask the vote. All in favor?
Opposed?
Okay. Any voting against? Don't see any, Terry.
Actually, we didn't even need a vote for that, Larry, because it's by acclamation. If there were no other
There's a
nominees, then it's by
coronation.
acclamation. Okay?
Cindy, will you stand up so we can thank you for
Yeah.
taking on this position?
Okay. Okay, I thank you.
It's a
Okay,
big
so thank you, Larry. One
responsibility,
second.
and we appreciate it, Cindy.
I kind of wondered, though, I thought your term was up. Was it up? Were your terms up?
Yeah.
Your term was up, was it?
I was way past my expiration date.
Okay, so okay, so it's not that they resigned. We want to make that noted too, because your term was up, and I think they went for 2 sessions, or Sharon went for 2 sessions, or whatnot. So so their term was up. So you know what? It's been a rough 2 years that I've been on the board with you. I want to take my privilege in the chair to say thank you for the work that you've done over the last couple of years that you've been on the board and your way of serving. It's been tough, and I do feel the pain and the stresses over the last couple of years. So we thank you for hanging in. We thank you for the work you did, and hope that you will stay still member and participants in the congregational life of Sydenham-Heritage United Church. So thank you. Okay.
Not to rain on your parade, Larry, but I do have some concern, and it's not. I thank you, Cindy, for stepping up, because there was a vacancy there for a while, and wondering what we were going to do about that. But I do think that part of my reason for not even putting my name forward, besides the fact that I had run my course, was the fact that I think it's really important to make space for other people and other ideas, and that's really important for the renewal of this church. And so my only concern is that, Cindy, you're currently co-treasurer, you're a trustee, you're head of UCW. I'm just wondering, like, I wouldn't want to even, and I'm not saying that you're not fully capable of doing all of those positions, but I do have some concern regarding that.
And I don't know if it's only a concern, but it's a matter of boundaries and confidentiality around those kinds of positions. So, and it's not even co-chair now, as it's in the nominating report. It has to be chair, because there's no co-chair. So, yeah, in terms of co-treasurer and trustee. Yes, Cindy?
Trustee, if you noticed, I am a non-voting trustee.
Cindy, you need a mic.
At the last meeting, because I was involved elsewhere, it was made known that I had to be a non-voting trustee. And I have stayed on as trustee to help out the trustees because of my long tenure being a banker. And as for confidentiality, work for a bank, and you'll find out what confidentiality is about. As for the UCW, I'm not giving up that post. I have tried to give that post up,
and get talked into it every year. It's a lot of fun, and it's not just me. There's 23 other ladies in the UCW that make the UCW what it is. It's not me. So, and as for helping Norma, the banker in me comes out again. And it's just, and Norma does it, she does it, and I sign and go, okay, and I'll do this. And she tells me what to do and file things, and yeah. So I help her. And I don't mind doing that on a Tuesday morning or a Thursday morning. So that's what I have to say about that.
I to say about it, I think it's wonderful that Cindy stepped up because there's nobody else that is stepping up. Look around. I mean, most of us have 2 or 3 jobs, you know, so those that don't have a job, think about that.
Okay, so thank you, Cindy. I just feel that, and Fred, correct me if I'm wrong, in terms, I don't have an issue with the UCW, but there is a boundary with the co-chair of the co-treasurer. Okay, because it's a boundary. You don't think there's no conflict? Okay, okay. I'm going with Fred. He says no, there's not. So concerns are not. None. Yes, Daryl.
I'd like to make a comment about the nominating committee report. And it has nothing to do with the chair. I'm really pleased that Cindy is going to step up and do that, and I think she will make an excellent chair for this coming year. But where I'm concerned is everyone else on the board, because when we set it up, when Sydenham-Heritage united, we envisioned a board where people would not stay in a position for longer than 3 years. And we have many positions that have been there for 7 years, ever since we were together. This didn't, first of all, I have to say this did not apply to the treasurer because the treasurer needs to be a consistent post. But all of the other positions should change at least every 3 years, and that's not happening. And why is it not happening? Because we're not saying yes when the nominating committee comes and asks us to do a job. So I think that as a group, we need to look at ourselves and say, is there a job on that board that I could do? Next year, when the nominating committee comes around, let's be a little more positive.
Thank you, Daryl. Thank you for that, Daryl. And when the governance was written back in the day with Wayne Beamer, that's exactly what we thought of when the governance was written. The board meetings are open to anyone who would like to attend. You will not be part of the vote. However, you can be a part of the conversation and the discussion that takes place at the board. You will get a feel and a sense for how the board operates. So if you had any fear of saying yes, take the time for 2024 to attend a couple of board meetings and see if this is where you may feel called to be. Read the minutes of the board meeting, question people on the board, and see whether or not, and listen for that quiet voice to see, is this how I want to serve at Sydenham-Heritage United Church? It's not, it is a commitment to attend the board meetings and to be a part of the conversation, to be a part of the decision-making. But it's rewarding work when you're doing it for your congregation. So think about that. Okay. Are we finished?
I will continue.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The next thing on the agenda is on page 33. You're just about at the last of your year end. It shows all the people that are on the positions on the board. So we need just to look at that. And there's a couple of things there. The first thing is there's a typo error. It shouldn't say co-chair. It should say chair, because Cindy is the chair, and there's no co-chair this year. So if you can correct that. And down a little farther, you might have a question. When you look at outreach stewardship, you'll see two names, Shelley Grisdale and Marilyn Markle. And the reason for that is that Shelley would like to have every other month off from coming to the board meeting. So Marilyn stepped up and said she would do an alternate time too. So that's how they do it. One month Shelley will attend, the next month Marilyn will attend. So that's why that's there. The other one is on the trustees. Lauren White would ask whether he could do it alternately too. So Larry Tempener has stepped up, and he will do the alternate board meeting. So that's why that's there. So I'm going to ask the question whether I move that the rest of the board members be approved for 2024. Let me hear who's for. Let me hear. Put your hands up. I vote. Everybody in favor?
I have a question, though,
Everybody
Larry.
in favor?
No, Larry, I have a question about the Horseshoe Falls region, like
The what?
the regional reps.
The region. Well, that's on there.
2023, that means your time is up.
Well, you agreed to stay on when you were asked at the board
Are you
meeting.
staying on? Maureen is not staying on, so is your time up too?
I was not told that.
So we need a volunteer for the regional, we need a nomination for another regional rep.
Then is there anybody here that will stand for regional rep of Horseshoe Falls?
Mary, did we have one last year for the last board? Did they have a regional rep?
I have been the regional rep since the conception of the regions. I have been in there for the whole time, so somebody should think about. It is on there, but I'm just saying we need another name because Maureen is.
Yeah. I did not know Maureen was not going to continue doing that.
Do we have two in our numbers?
Lauren?
Our governance model says we have 2 regional reps, so we need 2.
That's right. Horseshoe Falls, yeah, right. Mm-hmm. The regional rep, we attend, of course, the regional meetings, which are held twice a year or any other time of that we are called. We should participate in any of the commissions that are the regional reps. So we have the congregational support, we have the stewardship, discipleship, human resources, all of that kind of stuff. Any word from the region, we should be reporting back to the congregation. It is mandatory that every congregation should have a regional rep, and if they don't, it's going to be like, it's going to become very mandatory. I know that there are some congregations that do not have one, but it is a key for the region for 2024 to ensure that every congregation has a regional rep. So, but we do have 2. We've had 2 since the conception of the regions, Maureen and myself. But if Maureen is coming off, then we do need someone else to step up. Step in. I have the honor of being on the region and on the executive of the region and on other committees. So It is a learning opportunity. It is, it's enriching. You know, you learn. Yes, Brian?
Yvonne, you mentioned that not every congregation would have a regional rep to this horseshoe. Now, if that were the case with our congregation, when there was a board meeting, could they request somebody to come from the region and report at our board meeting what's going on?
If we did not have a supervising minister or a minister. But as long as we have a minister or a supervising minister, then we have regional representation.
Okay, so what you're saying is, if we didn't have representation, the fact that we do have a minister, we could request in advance to this Horseshoe Falls for somebody to come and be at our board meeting?
If we do not have a minister present.
But we have a minister.
That's right. That's why. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we could request somebody to come.
No.
Because we have a minister. Oh, if we have a minister, we will. Okay. So does he go do it then? Does he come back and report?
You have regional reps. You have myself and Maureen. We are the regional reps for this congregation. Including that, we also have a minister, Fred, or Paul when he was here, or an interim minister when they come, because they are automatically a part of the region.
Oh, okay.
So they will bring us back.
So we've got
So we are covered.
double representation.
But in the case of a congregation that do not have a regional rep, their minister could bring back report. However, it is encouraged that each congregation should have a regional rep.
Okay, good. And that is about once a month that they go to the region, or I don't know, twice a year?
Okay. I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Oh, somebody answered it for me.
Okay, all right.
Twice a year.
Yeah, twice a year.
And that
Okay.
meeting is held at Carlisle, I believe.
Okay, so we're going to remove Maureen's name from the report. And in the meantime, I invite you to prayerfully discern if being a rep for this congregation, for the region, is what you are feeling called to do.
Yvonne, can I ask, if we don't find someone, is one rep enough?
At least you have a rep, yes.
As long as you have one rep, that's good
we have a
enough.
rep, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes? BJ?
The regional rep is a member of the board. Correct?
Yes.
Yvonne is listed as regional rep. She's also listed on worship on the nominating committee.
Not nominating.
The
Not nominating.
The nominating committee, you've been recommended. That's problematic because there's a vote. You're only allowed one vote per person, and there's 2 votes. One for the regional rep, there's one for worship. So, we have had many times in the last 5 years or 7 years where our board has been divided. 50-50. The chair gets to the deciding vote. If we had another person, that might not happen. And also, we have a youth representative that doesn't attend the meetings either. So there's another vote that's not used. And it has been a big pain, and you know where, that we have fought, especially the last 2 years, and I've had enough. We need to fill these positions on the board and do it as soon as possible. It's not fair to you, Yvonne, to have double duty on the board. One, whatever, yes.
Okay.
In days gone by, the committees used to appoint their own chair. Is that not the policy still, or does that have to be put on here? Because I'm chair of a stewardship outreach, and Shelley and Marilyn are both on the board because I resigned from going to the board. But I did not resign from the stewardship outreach committee. I chair that committee. So could worship not pick their own chair that goes to the board meetings, or they could pick two that alternate, and that would help.
Sharon.
The way that our governance structure currently works, and I don't know if it is working, okay, but when we devised this with the idea of not chairs but leads of all of the various committees, it was meant to try to avoid burnout. So because we have monthly board meetings, and I would invite that any committee do this. I mean, property did it, right? Brian and Norm, you were representatives, you alternated back and forth. If you have a committee of 23 people, for instance, you could have 12 members on that committee taking 1 month, one board meeting a month. And that spreads the experience around of being on the board, of representing the committee, and sharing the work of that committee. So the idea is to rotate, and I'm really glad that Marilyn and Shelley have taken that on for stewardship outreach, so that it's just what Verna said. She's not stepping down as the lead of stewardship outreach, but she will not be representing that committee at board because there's designated members. So I think that's really a good way of making sure that positions are filled, new voices are heard, and it shares the work. The finance has been vacant for over a year now. And part of it, I think, I'm not going to speak for Andrew, but Cynthia can, and I think the fact is that it's really hard when you don't have any youth in the church.
I can see my son's name in the board membership there, but as a mom, I know how busy Andrew is. So this is going back to the board. If you can choose a co-chair or co-youth rep to the board, that will be wonderful. I know Andrew will not decline that or oppose that.
Okay. Another volunteer. Okay. All right. I am mindful of the time. It is 1:20 coming up. But okay. Yes.
Verna, you were right. The representative to the board is decided by each committee. They are to vote who the chair is to be or who the rep is to be. On M&P, my predecessor was on for years with the Sydenham people and did not attend board meetings. She sent a rep from her committee. It doesn't have to be the chair that is the rep on the board. Mm-hmm. So there are quite a few people on worship. Maybe somebody else could help Yvonne out and represent her represent the committee at the board, and that would solve the two vote thing, or the two positions that Yvonne holds.
Okay.
And I thank you, Yvonne. You have done a wonderful job of being regional rep, and it's been a lot of years, and you have a lot of experience. I don't think you should give that up. Not for our sake. We need you.
I'm going to be selfish.
Okay.
But thank you just the same. And I appreciate the comments around I never even saw it like that. BJ, to be honest with you, I just thought I'm there to represent the spiritual lead and worship, I would imagine, and pastoral care. However, I do hear that. So I will call not only on the worship people, but maybe pastoral care as well, because that comes under spiritual lead, for anyone to present the spiritual component of the governance onto the board. So let me work on that and see if I can get other volunteers to attend the meeting on that behalf. I am prepared to stay on as the regional rep, only because my time on the executive of the region is still 2 years. So I'll just wait that out as well, work that out as well. Okay, Larry,
Okay.
are you finished?
All right, I'll continue.
And we are going to remove
So
Maureen.
at the present time then, we will have one rep for Horseshoe Falls until somebody else volunteers throughout the year. That's the way it will be, and it's legal, right, Fred? Okay, all right. The other thing I just want to bring up, finance. Finance always had a spot on the board, and Ron Stinson was the rep on that, and he felt he wasn't contributing to that because Norma, as the treasurer, responded to everything that was needed and asked. So that's something the new board's going to have to work on, whether maybe we don't need a finance person on the board when we have a treasurer and a co-treasurer that could come if needed. And so that's something we're going to have to discuss. Okay? So I guess I want to ask so I move that the remainder, not counting Cindy, because that's already been approved, the rest of the board, as they stand here, be approved, less Maureen Gilmore. Could I have a vote on that? I'm sorry? And worship will be determined. All in favor? Against? Any abstentions? Okay, that's moved then. The next thing on the agenda is the Ministry and Personnel Committee is a little bit different than the other committees. And what that means is when that committee invites a new person to come onto the committee, because you can't just ask to go on that committee, you have to be invited to go on the Ministry and Personnel. So because of confidentiality, and there's a lot of different aspects there. So they've invited Larry Timpner to become a member of the Ministry and Personnel Committee. And so therefore, I move that Larry be accepted on that committee, and I'd like a seconder. BJ. And the vote, everybody in favor? Against? Abstaining? Okay. Two abstentions, Terry. And none against. Okay, that is finished. The final thing we need to do is the new nominating committee for 2024. Like I said, Cynthia, Sonny, and myself were on it. Sonny and I have been on it for maybe 2 or 3 years. Cynthia has been on it for a couple. And she's agreed to stay on. And the 2 new people we've nominated to go on there is our friend Larry Eddy down there, and Sharon Davidson has agreed to go on the nominating committee for 2024. So I move for those 3 people, and have I got a seconder? Bob McMillan seconds that. All in favor?
Who was the seconder?
Bob McMillan.
Oh, Bob McMillan. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Any abstentions?
Abstention.
Okay, that carries.
Abstention.
1 abstention.
You're abstaining? and you're on it.
But you can't vote. You can't vote anyway. You can't vote.
Boy, that's different.
Okay, carried? It's conflict. She can't vote for herself. Okay, all right, so that's carried. Okay.
Okay,
Is that it then? That's it? That's it?
I think I finished the job as on the nominating
Thank
committee.
you, good job. Okay. Okay. All right, so thank you, Larry, for that, and your team for the work that you've done. Okay, we are at point 14, the report from the transitional team. Are you doing that, Daryl? Thank you.
The transitional team includes Ngozi, Jackie Scatchard, Terry, Gail Merritt, Rita Mustard, and myself as chair, along with 2 representatives from the region, Mike Wyatt, who many of you will know as a very active member at St. Andrews, and Christina Paradella, who is herself an interim minister, and she is the second regional rep. We've had a number of meetings initially to communicate with each other, to discuss holy manners and how that affects our deliberations and our meetings, and to discuss also confidentiality and the importance of confidentiality in a committee like this. It's very important that we do not talk about people that we are talking to with regard to looking for a position here, because that may dramatically affect that other person's position where they are, or for whatever reason. So I would ask you to think about that if you're speaking to members of the transition team, and not ask them for particulars like that, although to ask them for the things that we're considering and what we're trying to do, we'd be happy to respond to requests like that. All of us attended a training session provided by the National Church on Zoom, and we have also, at this point in time, placed the church profile on the Church Hub. This is a database within the database of the United Church that is available to certain people for certain reasons, and people who are looking, ministry people who are looking for a position, for example, have access to the Church Hub, and members of the transition team have access to also lists of the people who are looking by the time we are in a position to be in that situation. We are seeking a full-time, intentional interim minister. Now, we had discussions earlier about, do we need to have an interim? Do we need to have a full-time interim? And one of the things is that that is, to a certain extent, a decision that's taken out of our hands, because under certain circumstances, the National Church says, you will have an interim minister who will be there for a minimum of 2 years and usually a maximum of 3, because you need to deal with some issues within the congregation before you call a full-time minister or a minister at all as leader to the ministerial leader to the congregation. So we really don't have much of a position on that. We are told that we need an interim minister. We also discussed at the transition meeting the possibility of a part-time minister, but we're told in no uncertain terms by the representatives of the region that the region was not going to allow us to go to anything less than full-time, because we have the resources to pay for a full-time minister, And that's what we need to do, and that's what we need in order to solve the problems within the congregation. We also came up on the recommendation of the board with issues that we are looking for, or goals that we have. We want to improve the communications within the congregation. We want to decrease the level of conflict within the congregation, and we also put as a goal, and we added this to the board's goal, that we want the interim minister to help us to find a way to improve our financial situation going forward. So we are all in the transition team well aware of the discussion that went on earlier this morning, that our position at the moment is unsustainable. We need to make changes that will improve that position, and this will be one of the requests that we will make of the intentional interim minister. We then are still in the process of developing the job description for the intentional interim minister, and we are developing for ourselves a list of questions that we will use at the interview when we interview candidates for that position. So that's where we are at the moment. That's what our job is. We are really hoping that we can get our information finalized on the hub and begin talking to possible candidates within the very near future. Our goal is to have an intentional interim minister here on the 1st of March when Fred is finished.
No, April,
I'm sorry, the 1st of April. Well, 1st of March is a little too close. when Fred is finished with the pulpit supply. So please approach any member of the committee if you have questions, and or especially if you have advice. And if you know someone who's going to fit our needs, come with that name for sure. But please don't ask us for names or information. And one of the things that is definitely going to come up when we make our proposal is there are certain questions that we can't ask, and that's the law of the land. Mm-hmm. For example, we cannot ask sexual orientation, we cannot ask age, mm-hmm. we cannot ask family issues. Mm-hmm. That's the law of the land when you're hiring someone. Mm-hmm. Any questions or any issues?
Sharon.
Exploring different models based on our finances. So what we got approval for was a full-time intentional interim minister for a 12-month period to be reviewed near the end of that term, so that if we have the finances and we want to extend that, we can do so. But so my question is, when you do the job description, will it be advertised as a 12-month term or a 24-month term?
I don't know if we have the answer to that entirely. I have a feeling, and this is my personal feeling, is that we will advertise for a 24-month term with the review after 12 months. I know that's not what the information that you got, but that is what our regional reps advised us. And one of the things that they said is if you ask for an interim minister to fulfill the goals that you have listed and tell them that they're going to do that in 1 year, they're going to tell you where to go.
Not gonna happen, yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Daryl, but we have a motion and a letter from Mikel Cottrell that approves it for a 12-month term.
Yeah, we'll have to take that up. Yeah.
Oh, do we need a mic? I think we need a mic. Sorry.
That's correct.
And at the end of the 12-month commitment this minister has, to avoid going through a long process again, if that minister was doing what we wanted, would a full-time ministry be offered to him?
No. No. An interim minister is a specialized minister with special skills to help a congregation in the situation that the congregation finds itself. Okay? So once that work is done, meeting the goals, help us to reach the goals that has been set out by the congregation or the board or the transition team. Once those goals have been attained, then the next step is to hire a minister, whether full-time, half-time, whatever the findings are, to hire a minister for the congregation. A whole new team. That's when we'll have a search team, and we'll go search for a new minister. Yeah, except that we're not
you go
searching
through
for an
the process
interim,
again.
we're searching for a minister. Okay.
But the interim that we hire is not eligible for the full-time position.
No, that's right too.
I'm just going to ask, make sure that Terry minutes, that the governing body of this congregation, which is the outgoing board, approved a motion on January 17th to hire a full-time intentional interim minister for a 12-month period to be reviewed near the end of that 12-month period. We also, on our board meeting on February 14th, gave the correspondence, the reply from the region, which was that it was approved. So I would like that minute, please.
Okay. All right. One more question from Brian.
Is it opportunity, once you pick somebody, that committee, is it opportunity available to them to come and actually preach to the congregation before a final commitment is made? So that the congregation can feel, because in the past, we know what has happened.
That's called preaching for a call. Preaching for a call, and it is forbidden. It is forbidden.
It's permitted?
It is not
It's not permitted. What happens is, if we interviewed a minister who we think might fit the bill, fit the call for this church, okay? It is the responsibility of the search committee to go to the church where the minister is and hear him preach. We go to, they don't come here. We go to them and listen to their. That's right. That's right. When the search committee makes its decision about the selection that they've chosen, then they can say, we've chosen this person because of A, B, C, D. But the search committee should go out to the churches where they're interviewing the ministers to listen to their ministry or online or whatnot. Yeah. Okay? Wow, you know what? This is very engaging, and I really appreciate the questions and the discussions. This is healthy. Okay, so thank you, Daryl, and the transition team for your work, and I'm going to invite the congregation to hold you guys in prayer, because it is not easy work. I've been on the search committee for a couple times. You and I shared that too, Daryl. So it's hard work. So please hold them in your prayers as we go about our day. Thank you. I'm going to take a little minute and just ask Fred to just pray for where we are right now in our meetings, holding all the commissions in our prayers, and especially the new board coming in. If we can just say a quick prayer, Fred, please. Thank you.
Let's pray. Holy One, we give you thanks for all those who have exercised spiritual leadership in the life of this congregation over the past year or years. We pray now that those who take up the mantle of leadership will be blessed with a renewed sense of the presence of your Holy Spirit, will be held in the prayers of this community, and will be guided by the doing of your will. We pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Fred. Okay, so new business, and I'm going to call Larry to present the capital projects for 2024 and beyond.
I love flowers, and I can't do everything. Well, I can scream. Anyway, Nichols, as you know, are wonderful people. They know I go to this church, and I was saying we're having an annual meeting, and she said, "Good for you, you're alive." Yes, we're alive. She said, "I have tulips I would like to give you for your workers of the church." So I would like to give some to Marie for her co-chair. For Eileen, thank you for your weekly meals.
He can't leave. Oh, you know he can't leave. No, he's still here.
Trevor, are you here?
Trevor didn't leave.
We need one.
Okay, Evelyn, thank you so much for that. That was a nice break. Okay, Larry, go ahead. You have the mic.
Okay. So we got these.
We're going to aim to wrap up by 2 o'clock, okay? So just give us a few more minutes. Go ahead.
We might not make it, Yvonne, if there's a lot of questions.
It.
Anyway, this proposed future projects for 2024 and beyond, the property committee has put this together. They put a lot of effort into this. Some of these things have been on our project list for a few years, and some of them are new. And so what I'm going to do is that the first two. Now, most of all of this will be funded likely by the Allen Cook Foundation. They've been very good to us. Since 2019, I think they've given us close to $200,000. So it's a lot of money, and they're willing to help us more. And we also have some money in the projects like last year, they gave us more than we needed, so that's sitting in there. Also, we get half of the HST back when we do a project, so that half is put in the project fund. So there is some money in the project fund that if we need, because normally the Ellen Cook Foundation will only fund us for 80% of what we require. Now, they've made exceptions, especially during the pandemic. The digital sign out there, that sign is worth $30,000, and they paid it all. And that was because they knew we were financially strained because of the pandemic, and they helped us out. So normally it's 80%, sometimes it's more. So that's where it stands. And the property committee have put this together. I presented that to the board last month, or the month of February, when we had our meeting, and they approved it. They moved a few things around because the property committee felt that the first two priorities we got to get done. We got to complete that brickwork outside. Especially the auditorium, the church property has been repaired, but it's the auditorium. There's bricks that need to be replaced. That needs to be done, and and also number 4, the streaming of Wi-Fi in Calder Hall is an important thing that we feel should be done, because this will equip Calder Hall to be able to Zoom for the people who can't come into the church, and we will be able to use Calder Hall in the summer when it's too warm up here to have our services, and we would be able to use Zoom. And so that would require, it's about $2,000. Lyle Sylvester estimated it would be about that much money to get that done. And in the meantime, Bob Woodhouse's son has volunteered to help us upgrade that system a little bit down there, because it's very old, but it's an excellent system in its day. It was an excellent system, and it still is. But it needs to be a little bit of tweaking with it. And he's willing to do this because he works for Execulink, and he's very technical. So he can tune this thing up and get it fixed so we can do it. He'll create a manual how to run it properly. And so that we're thankful for that. So if Lyle gets this Zoom going, it should be as almost as good as what we've got upstairs, but older, of course. So that's important. Now we get into the wheelchair thing. We have to be accessible by 2025. The Ontario government says all public buildings have to be accessible. So that means we have to do something fairly quickly. That wheelchair ramp was put in 1999, so it's 25 years old this year, and it's seen its day, and we're having nothing but trouble with it constantly. We had it repaired on Friday. It's down again. So we're going to have to call them again, and every time you call them, it's $400. So that is a problem. So the Property Committee feels that should be looked at. I've talked to the manager of Ellen Cook Foundation. He is favorable to replacing that and helping us replace that wheelchair ramp with an electric wheelchair capability. So, but I asked them about an elevator or ramps in the back going up the narthex. We're looking at, I got $175,000. That was last year's estimate, so likely it's $200,000 now. And he isn't favorable to that, and his reasonings are that it's a lot of money, and when we only have 1 or 2 people that use it, sometimes it's not even used on a Sunday. He said, no way am I going to put that kind of money into that. So that would mean our grant committee, which is made up of Yvonne Wright, Sharon Davidson, and Terry Matheson, will have to get their act together and get going on grants if we want to go that route. So that could take months or years to accomplish. And as they say, we would need an audit maybe before anybody would give us those grants. And the last time we had an estimate on an audit, when we tried the Trillium Foundation to help us, it was going to cost $10,000 for an audit. Now, they're saying it's even more, so maybe it is today, but it was $10,000 then. So that doesn't guarantee you're going to get the grant. So you could spend 10 grand and not even get the grant. So that's a little scary. So that's something that we have to look at. So that's where we're at. The rest of the stuff here, if you got any questions on the rest of the things, like you say, the balcony stained glass window is starting to bulge. It needs to be related, and that's been on the list for 3 or 4 years, and we just keep going on about it. The kitchen floor, the reason why that's on there is that our custodian finds that floor very hard to keep clean. The grouting in it is just about, he has to get down on his hands and knees with a brush to clean that grouting. So it's a big job. And if it was done like the Calder Hall is done, it could be cleaned with vinegar and water, and it would be easy. So that's something that needs to be considered. The air conditioning, few people say, well, that is a real luxury. And it is a luxury. But if the auditorium was air conditioned, we would be able to get more rental people to come in. Because in the summer, they're just not going to come in there when it's piping hot. And the same with weddings in the sanctuary. They're not going to do a wedding in here in June or July unless we had air conditioning. They just won't do it. So that's something for to consider. And whether the Alan Cook Foundation would consider that or not. Now grants, I would think, my thinking would be, it would be very hard to get a grant for air conditioning. You know, they're not going to be too receptive to that. So that's why we need to count on the foundation maybe to help us if we went to air conditioning, and also to the wheelchair ramp here. Now, if we go, we need to have the Ellen Cook Foundation do that, because we like to could get that replaced within months. Because I've already got a Norrell quote on that, and it's about $50,000 they figure that it would cost to do that. And the Alan Cook Foundation is willing to help us with that. So that likely could be done in a few months if we went that route. So that's all I got to say. If you got any questions.
Okay, thank you, Larry, for that.
Pardon? They would help us with that, and even if they only gave us 80%, we've got likely enough money in the fund that to pay for the rest of it if he only goes for 80%. Tom,
Yes,
Dave.
Dave.
Just to clarify, Larry, what you're planning on doing with that lift is replacing the machine itself, not waiting.
Well, that is a big question, because I was talking to the technician when he was here on Friday, and he said he's not too familiar with the new designs. If the design is completely changed, everything's got to come out. But if it's not, there's a possibility they could replace the ramp and all the electronics in it with up-to-date stuff, and save all the infrastructure of the bars and everything, and use it, which could save us a lot of money. So that's something we got to talk about. Bob McMillan.
Bob?
Sure, whether it's going to work. I go there, we can go down in the morning and can test it and find it's working. It comes when dawn is coming and it doesn't work.
And that, I think, happened this morning. You tested it earlier, Bob. It worked. We go to use it, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, you know, we really got to get rid of that lit
Yep.
if we want to have any accessibility at all.
That's true. Well, the repairman was in here on Friday, and it was supposed to be fine, and it wasn't. So we got a real problem on our hands. So,
Do
Betty.
you know, do,
Oh, I'm sorry. Norma first, okay.
Do you know if getting that lift will make us fully accessible by the government standards? It does.
Oh,
It
yeah.
does serve.
I mean,
both
right now,
levels.
we would be acceptable. Right now, we'd be acceptable. It's accessible. And that's all you need.
Larry, if we go with the ramp, how long would it be down? How long, you've got to take one out, put a new one in, how long would it be down?
I have no idea.
And do we have to vote on that?
We haven't, all we've got is a Norrell quote on replacing that. We haven't gone into any details. So we need to, if we decide to go that route, we'll need to sit down with somebody.
Do we have to vote on that?
Well, that might be a good idea, to have a vote, because, you know, let's face it, it would be ideal to have it at the back, because it's nice for people to come in from the back in the narthex and come into the church. That's the ideal way to do it, but it's an expensive way to do it. And can we really afford to go that route? Unless we can get a full grant for the whole thing, I don't think we can afford it. I really don't.
And more likely, Larry, to get a full grant for the ramp lift that we're talking about.
Right.
We're not going to. We will get part of the grant. We can get separate grants for the lift, but there has to be some kind of a contribution from the congregation
That's right.
to the project.
That's right.
Whether it comes out in labor, donations, materials, but the and this is coming from when we did the bathroom renovations, for example. We had a $50,000 grant to do it. We had to get a loan from the United Church to top it up, and then we had to put in manual labor hours. Correct, Terry? Correct. Okay. So any grant that we are going to have, there has to be some contribution from the congregation to make it happen, not to say that we won't get it. And in answer to Betty's question around would we need to vote on that particular project if we're going to be going ahead with it for this year, yes, we would need to get a vote for that.
Okay. I think Daryl's got something here.
And Daryl, sorry, here's a mic.
I just wanted to explain what we're really looking at here. We have three proposals. The number one proposal, in my opinion, by far the best proposal, is to put a wheelchair lift, not an elevator, but a wheelchair lift in that corner of the building. It would involve dropping the door down to street level so that a wheelchair could come directly in that door, and then a wheelchair lift that would go up to the sanctuary and down to the lower level. Beautiful system that brings people into the back, probably costs at least $300,000. The second proposal is that we put a ramp that goes from that corner of the parking lot up to halfway along the building at the level of the gallery overlooking Calder Hall. There's a door there now, but we can't use it. We have to close off that door and put a new door in where the window is, so that requires outside structure and an outside ramp. You then come into that level, go over towards the stairs for the upper room, and take a wheelchair lift that goes down to Calder Hall. Or you come the other way, and the stairs that we now use to come in are either gone or much smaller, and there's a wheelchair lift where those stairs are that bring you up to the sanctuary, and you come in at the back of the sanctuary, which is definitely the ideal way. So that involves an outside ramp, a change to the outside part of the building with a different door that's not there now, two wheelchair lifts. Again, not elevators, but wheelchair lifts. And the cost of that is somewhere around $200,000, and I think that's pretty light. I can't imagine the external work being included in that $200,000.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's approximately what it
It
is.
likely is light, Daryl.
Pardon?
It likely is light.
Yeah.
Because just the door alone, replacing that door down there in the window, it's $50,000 to redo that door and the ramp.
And the third proposal is to replace the chair lift, the stairs lift, which is definitely the worst of the three proposals, because it brings people in to the front of the sanctuary, which a person in a wheelchair or with a walker does not want to do. However, there are some things in its favor that I think is a real problem to us. Number one is by far the cheapest for us to be able to do. Number two, not only is it the cheapest, but we know we have the funding for it. The Alan Cook Foundation has already told us that they will fund it. And number three is it could be done probably in a week. If they can reuse the bars, it could probably be done
Very quickly. If everything has to come out,
If
then
they
it would
put
like to
in
be a
new
few
bars,
months.
Probably 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And probably right away.
Well, the way he talked, that they don't have them sitting in stock because it would have to be custom made for this place.
Yeah.
So that would take a few months likely.
But certainly it could be done much faster.
Oh, yeah.
I cannot see the other one with the external and the door taking less than a year.
Oh, yeah.
And I cannot see that taking more than a month once they agree to do it. Of course,
That's right.
who knows how long that'll be. Anyway, given all of those facts, I would move that we go, and the other thing that I should say too, is if we do replace this and use it for a year or more, we could still do one or both of the other things if we come up with, we win the lottery. Larry, you buy the tickets, eh? So, you know, I would propose, or I would move, that we go ahead and authorize the Fix-It Club to arrange for doing, replacing the stair wheelchair lift so that it will accommodate an electric or a powered wheelchair.
Okay, I'm gonna second that. Okay, Sharon. So thank you, Daryl, for wrapping that up and putting that into perspective of our three proposals, and for moving the motion that we go ahead with looking at replacing this wheelchair lift. And Sharon has seconded that. Any discussions, questions? I know time is gone, but around this. Okay, so we are proposing specifically for the replacement of the wheelchair lift, okay? All in favor of that motion? And anyone opposed to that? Carried. Okay, well, thank you for that. I think it's important. I do agree with you that there's no reason why we cannot start to investigate the other two options and see which one would work best for the congregation.
Okay. So any more questions on the projects? None? Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yes, Sharon?
So I know we've been in this room for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure this is an appropriate time to do it, but I want to raise it as a wrong that I'd like to right. And that is that when we were working with Reverend Wayne Beamer around the governance structure, the rationale that the UCW have a voice and not a vote on the board was that traditionally boards tended to be all male dominant, and that, you know, you didn't, now that women have come into their own, that there are a lot more women on the board, and so you don't need to have the UCW have a vote. And I think that's just incorrect. It's taken me 5 years, but I think that we should actually have a representative from the UCW on the board with the vote. And I don't know if I can move that motion here or whether that takes a different process. Fred, does a notice of motion have to be given for? Because it's changing the governance model. Yeah, okay, but I just want to put that out there. I do think, and what that means for you, Cindy, as chair of the board, is that you've got 23 women on the UCW that could be a representative, could take turns representing the UCW, and they would have a vote on the board.
And I have to say to that is the UCW, we report to the Horseshoe Falls UCW, who reports to
The national.
So we are our own little entity per se. And I think I should talk to the ladies before we go any further.
Okay, thank you. Did you have something? New business. Under new business, yes. We have an item on the new business, yes. What it is? Sunny.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Late.
That's quite a sheet. That's a laundry list. And I'm on that committee. Anyway, please allow me to read what I plan to speak about. First off, my roots run very deep here in God's house. The very first minister here was a C.T. Bennett. He was a great uncle of mine, 1891, maternally, that is. In 1924, 100 years ago, another uncle, E.S. Sinclair, served here. So my roots are deep. My family came to this church in 1947, a family of 5. We did all the things that you do in a church. You get christened, you have anniversaries, you get married, you do all those really good things. And this is a very special place for me. So, anyway, I spent my life as a touring musician, entertainer. And sometimes I'd have to miss church for 4 or 5 Sundays in a row, sometimes 2 months. But when I did come to this church, and I told Larry Picard this, it was like I got my batteries recharged. It's a really good feeling. And back in '53, we were farmers out on Garden Avenue, and our barns burnt to the ground. The first people that were there were Sydenham church people to gather up, scrape away the ashes, and help us build a new barn. We never forgot that. I guess basically what keeps me coming back here is not necessarily the building. It's the people. It's the church. It's the church family. And we've kind of proved that with, we have Friday guys out at Mohawk Park. And they're not all church people, but we're working on that. Sometimes that's uphill. But anyway, we started to meet when COVID hit. 2 guys started it up, Brian and Norm. They said, "You want to go for a coffee?" I said, "Yeah, but you can't go anywhere." So we did a tailgate coffee. That was fine. But after 2 or 3 Fridays of doing that, it got a little bit old. So somebody suggested go to Mohawk Park. And by the way, if you got a friend, why don't you bring a friend with you next time you come? So now we're up into the teens with guys. We've never missed a Friday for 4 years. Yeah. So anyway, thanks to the amalgamation with Heritage, our partner, we're still pushing on harmoniously as a team. Unfortunately, the day-to-day operation expenses of this old church are killing us. As I mentioned, I worked as a musician. Musicians fall under the category of artists. And you're likely heard, most artists are dreamers. Yes, things we believe, and we try to make things become a dream into a reality. So please allow me to share my dream with you. I dream of a walk into a ground level church, probably an acre lot, parking for at least 100 cars, accessibility, EV charging, one main entrance. It says welcome, not 2 or 3 doors that are locked, where people that come for as guests, they don't know what door to come into. Atmospherically controlled means AC, of course, included. Full-time minister, full-time musical director. The church building would be in demand for rentals. This would likely exceed the $5,000 annually that we receive now for rentals. Our grand piano, church organ, grand piano downstairs, PA system, all the audio visual, it's all movable. Okay, now what are you thinking? This could cost millions? Likely. But not to worry, because we have equity in Sydenham-Heritage Church, along with some donors that have been a great, great boost to this church. Our church grants committee could roll into gear and generate grants. Now, to make the whole dream a reality, just visualize one of our sister United churches in town entering into this with us. So then we don't have one church for sale, we have 2 churches for sale, United churches. And the dream now looks a lot more attainable. I wouldn't even consider asking another local church to join us here at Shuck. Hopefully, you would agree to invite another church to join us in a move in a neutral church facility. This method would bond us together and make us a new church on our own. I'm not necessarily speaking of all brand new church, so on and so forth. I want you to think back, you Brantford people. I'm a country guy, but I do remember where Flim Flam was on Linden Road. That was a high-end gift shop, a beautiful, beautiful shop. It's now a church, all on one level. Everything that's on our laundry list here is there. So, anyway, in closing, for what I'm about to propose doesn't mean we move to this facility. No, we look at the advantages of a one-level modern complex. Here's a suggestion. The next time Sydenham-Heritage is to host the 4 United Churches Sunday, which we just had very recently. I was very impressed with all that, by the way. May I suggest an alternate location to whet the appetite of our people? It's the all-new Canesville Community Center, 15 Urt Ave, Canesville, Ontario. It's located near the corner of Coburn Street East, Country Road 18. Look for Brooks Signs, PBS store, the fire hall, and the water tower. And if you can't find it after all that. Anyway, so now to put my money where my mouth is. I would personally cover the rental cost fee for a Sunday for a quad church service at the Canesville Community Center. This mini step into the future could be the seed that would sprout and inspire more forward thinking in our membership. Thank you. There's one other thing. P.S. By the way, if you folks still feel that we need to stay put, when you leave the parking lot today, look directly across the street. There's a house for sale.
Amen.
That's an old frame house. It's probably pretty rickety. It would make a wonderful parking lot. Thank you so much.
This is a very good way in which we close the meeting. It's a lot of food for thought. Makita's song this morning was I Dream for Rain. And Sunny, dream of possible a new site. A site that not only hosts Sydenham-Heritage, but possible friends who will come along. I think I'll be leaving from this place with a lot of thinking. Thanks, Sunny. And I hope that the rest of us, or all of us, can really ponder and discern our way ahead. Because we do have challenges, but like Gail said this morning, she's gone now, we live, we labor, we lost, and we love. I want to thank all of you for sticking it out for this meeting, all the work that you have done over the year, and all the work that we will do in the coming year. I want to thank Fred, especially, for being with us since November. And I know that your sermons are ones that are very encouraging and perhaps calling us to really look at ourselves and answer or ask the question, is God still speaking to us? And I know that God is still speaking because, Sonny, with what you're saying, I think that's the Spirit moving. So I thank you for that. Fred's last day will be March the 31st, so he'll take us through Easter. He is taking 2 weeks vacation, March the 10th and March the 17th. I am sourcing for one supply minister. Right now we do have one. Terry Dempsey will come back and do the 17th with us. So I'm sourcing for the 10th. And if the 10th does not work, stay put, Daryl, you and I will have to do it, okay? So that is it. I don't know that we have anything. Trevor, thank you so much. Where did you go? Okay, if you want to just do a little tune to just, you know, and I'm going to ask Fred to close us in prayer. Thank you so much for your staying. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
A good friend of mine, much to my chagrin, taught my 5-year-old daughter a wonderful prayer. I'm going to use it this morning. So I invite you to join me in prayer. And here it is. Holy Pa, Holy Ma, Ta, Amen.
Oh.